While the 2020 NBA draft is considered weak, the class does boast a lot of talent at the point guard position. LaMelo Ball, Killian Hayes, Tyrese Haliburton, and Cole Anthony are all viewed as surefire lottery picks, but a few others are knocking on the door. One of them is Alabama's Kira Lewis Jr. Lewis was supposed to be a member of his high school's graduating class in 2019, but he ended up reclassifying and heading to Tuscaloosa a year earlier. That ended up being an excellent decision in regarding his draft stock, as Lewis played 2 years of college ball and is just as young as most of last year's freshmen. In heading to college earlier than expected, Lewis was able to display a sense of poise and maturity that is rare for a 17-year-old player. He wasn't just a role player. Lewis started all 34 of Alabama's games, averaged 13.5 points per game in just 31.6 minutes. That is pretty impressive when factoring in he was playing in the SEC, which is one of the most competitive conferences 2 years ago. Last season, Lewis improved in head coach Nate Oates' first year with the program. Oates runs a fast-paced offense which is perfectly suited for Lewis's game. The 6'3" guard averaged 18.5 points and 5.2 assists per game in 37.6 minutes per night. He also chipped in 4.8 rebounds and 1.8 steals per game. That is quite the sophomore campaign, and it was one that put him in the conversation for a lottery pick. When looking at Lewis's tape, the thing that jumps off the screen is his speed. Lewis was one of the fastest point guards in college basketball last season, if not the fastest, and he should be one of the quickest NBA players on the floor every game. Not only can Lewis get up and down the court in a hurry, but he's also extremely shifty. Staying in front of him is going to be a difficult task for opposing guards, and that will make him very valuable at the next level. Having a point guard that can constantly put pressure on the defense can make things easier for everybody on the floor and open up the floor for everybody else and shooters. Having the ability to contort your body like that is just straight up unfair considering how fast he already is. And Lewis is already a solid finisher through contact, especially considering his lack of strength. That means he should immediately be a threat off the bounce at the next level. Lewis is going to have to put on some muscle in the pros if he's going to end up improving around the basket, but he has a good feel for the game and making improbable shots. It helps that he's an estimated 6'6" wingspan, which makes him play a little bigger than he really is, and he has shown some comfort in his in-between game, as you'll see in his floaters. Of course, being able to get to the basket is meaningless in today's game if you don't have a jumper. Fortunately, Lewis shot at least 35% from three in each of his 2 college seasons, and he also shot 80.2% from the free throw line as a sophomore. In general, Lewis has a good technique as a shooter. He also has shown good feel for when he should be looking to get his own shot off. What all of this really means is that Lewis should be a good scorer in the NBA. However, his playmaking leaves a little bit to be desired for a point guard. Lewis has improved in that aspect a lot as a sophomore, but it would be still wise for a team to pair him up with a couple of good passers. In many ways, he reminds me of Oklahoma City's Dennis Schroeder, who has benefited from getting to play with Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this season. On the other end of the floor, Lewis is a good point-of-attack defender, and he's also good at creating havoc by getting into passing lanes. But adding strength is going to be very important when it comes to his defensive versatility, as it's hard to imagine him guarding anything but opposing point guards in the near future due to his strength limitations. Lewis must also show more focus in the pros, as he has been caught napping a bit more than one would like off ball. All in all, teams that end up picking late in the lottery can do a lot worse than grabbing what looks to be a surefire thing as a ball-dominant scorer. Even if Lewis's passing never improves, his scoring ability could be very useful in crucial moments. At the very least, Lewis's skill set suggests he'll be a guy that his coach can trust as a huge part of his rotation. But Lewis has a lot of traits that also make him an intriguing option as a long-term starter, which is what I think he will end up being.